Chapter 12. The further they walked, the louder the surf became. Once they broke out of the forest onto the beach, the sound of the sea was instantly mesmerizing. Alter and Joe waited for One Who and Whisperer to catch up, breathing in the warm winds that brought the sea to their nostrils. Salt, seaweed, untold minerals, water. The menagerie of scents grounded them.
I see they made a fire.
Alter pointed down the beach 200 meters. Even at that distance in the starlight, and with Obsidian's deep blackness, his body could be seen blocking the stars and catching glimmers of the firelight on his scales.
He's larger than I expected,
She said, clearly in awe of being near an actual dragon. Joe smiled.
They're legendary creatures for a reason, I suppose.
In what ways does his intelligence find expression?
As I said before, we've only been here for a day.
Joe replied.
But what I've seen so far, he has a knack for boiling things down.
An essentialist, good. He probably operates on first principles and parsimony.
And what are those?
One Who asked, coming out of the forest onto the beachfront lined with driftwood and fist-sized stones. Alter turned to meet the two remaining werewolves.
I would need more time to explain than I have right now.
She glanced in the direction of Obsidian.
What I really want to do is go meet that dragon.
She pointed and started to run.
Bye.
With that, Alter ran at an amazing speed toward Obsidian. Oriel had flown ahead, alerting Obsidian and Soan to Alter's approach and that of the rest of the negotiation party.
Even in my prime, I couldn't run that fast.
One Who observed with a wry smile. When Alter got within 10 meters of Obsidian, she came to an abrupt stop, waving her hand as if to say, "See me." She caught her breath for a few moments. Oriel was hovering in the air, just above Obsidian, as if she were a fairy. Still breathing heavily, Alter couldn't wait to talk any longer.
I've never been this close to an air dragon before. I'm not sure if any of my kind has.
Obsidian had been watching her as she approached.
I'm told you can shapeshift. Is that true?
His eyes narrowed to thin slits.
It is.
She looked up at him in awe.
Can you become a dragon like me?
No, for some reason, none of my kind has figured it out. But trust me, we have tried.
She stepped back a few meters, taking the whole scope of his body in.
Possibly the sheer scale that dragons possess makes it impossible. All of the beings I can shapeshift into are smaller than myself.
Well, perhaps you're not meant to get any larger then.
Obsidian replied.
So what's the largest creature you have shapeshifted into?
She thought about it and was about to speak, but then she changed her mind.
It's a very good question. I suppose a wolf, not a werewolf, but a regular wolf.
Why are you here?
I could answer that question a dozen different ways. How do you mean it?
She had composed herself and wanted Obsidian to know it.
Right now, standing in front of me on this beautiful beach as a servitor, why are you here?
To ask you some questions to see if you would be a good, impartial judge of the situation we find ourselves in. And by we, I am speaking of my clients, the sea dragons, and your clients, the werewolves.
I think I am a good judge, and not only because of my size that I can fly and that I breathe fire 100 meters. That alone does not make a good judge. A good judge is someone who can peel the layers of embroidery that have accumulated on any subject. Once they find the core subject, unencumbered with the layers, whatever it might be, they listen to the core and not the layers that covered it.
He bobbed his massive head.
That is a good judge.
And what are these layers?
They're the handiwork of those who have come before me to the subject and affix their beliefs, perspectives, opinions onto the subject. They want me to see the core through their eyes, their history, their biases. A good judge knows how to strip those layers off of the subject to reveal the core of the subject. And you know what's interesting when that is done?
What?
Alter murmured.
Everything that remains is nodal.
What does that mean?
Alter asked.
It means that it is all connected, that nothing stands alone in isolation. And very often, the layers that have been imposed by others are precisely what creates the sense of separation and subject isolation. Everything is a node within a network of information. The layers cover this fact.
And how do you peel these layers off?
One by one,
Obsidian answered quietly.
But how do you know how many layers there are before you perceive the core subject?
Alter asked testingly.
I feel it, this core. I still see the layers. I also still feel the separation they impart. But the core is always a node because it cannot be anything else. And it is still the core. So a good judge is sensitive and can suss out a node from 1,000 layers because they feel it. The searchlight of my inmost self always sheds light on the core. It is my mind that sheds light on the layers. If I know my inmost self, I can find the core in anything.
Joe and the werewolves strode up to Alter.
Why don't we sit by the fire and have a conversation?
Soen was already sitting by the fire, unperturbed by the intrusion.
It is warmer here, but you will lose the stars.
One who nodded, looking up at the night sky.
It is a trade-off I will not make. You might be grounded by the earth, its smells and sounds. At night we are grounded by the stars and planets, the galaxies, and our beginnings.
He paused, turning to Alter.
What have you learned in your talks with Obsidian?
He would make an excellent judge.
Why?
He knows how to reduce complexity, how to make a subject simple.
And how is that relevant to our case? Ours is not a complex case. It doesn't have a long history. It only has two parties. How is it complex?
He smiled at the last word, making it sound a tiny bit cynical. Obsidian cleared his throat in a low grumble that resonated inside all of the others present, even Ariel hovering in the air.
Often fear is the thing that makes something apparently simple, complex. You and the sea dragon possess ample fear of one another.
He turned to one who.
You fear them because they represent the unknown, which represents the fear of change.
He turned to Alter.
And your sea dragons, they fear the werewolves because they will bring a constant threat to your Adam and Eve. If these two fears could be dealt with in a contract, agreed to by both parties, and then reviewed every year, or in the event of an extraordinary occurrence, our job is done. Then possibly we can return to our respective worlds and all that waits for us there.
One, who raised his hand, index finger starbound.
But if we come to an agreement and you, by your very nature, constitute our review board, then you must stay in our world.
His hand returned to his side.
Perhaps the others can return, but you are here to keep the peace between us. Is that not true?
Obsidian paused in his response. His eyes closed for a moment.
I am not in control of when I come and go any more than the next creature. We are all the same in this regard, even you who are native to this world.
He paused again, bringing his eyes to one who.
I will help set the original agreement in place, and when that is done, you and the sea dragons will have to prepare for the possibility that we will one day disappear.
Further down the beach there was a sudden commotion. Hurtling at them were more than 100 werewolves sprinting at full speed. One, who turned to face them, raising his hand.
What?
As they came closer, they collectively slowed down. Hunter was at the lead and stepped forward.
The sea dragons, they killed her.
Who?
Your wife.
How? How could this be?
One, who shuddered, his head shaking. Hunter paused.
We were out hunting deer near the sea dragon's camp. The deer seemed to have congregated there, perhaps thinking it was a safe place. We were ready to charge, and suddenly, Loon, who was at my side, collapsed. She simply fell to the ground, limp as a leaf. When I looked around, I saw a sea dragon in the distance, watching us. It was them that killed her. I'm sure of it.
Hunter tapped the side of his head.
They have some kind of mental power.
He pointed to Joe.
They used it on him, too. It just wasn't a lethal dose.
One whose countenance was suddenly grave and fearsome. He put his head back, opened his large mouth full of teeth, and howled. Many of the werewolves in the pack did the same thing. The sound was deafening, yet within the mournful sound there was a raw beauty, as if nature itself had been let loose. One who put his arms up to the sky.
We will avenge her murder,
He shouted for his assembled tribe.
but in our own time and in our own way. Those sea demons must be held accountable, or we have no reason to resist our urges to exterminate them.
He then turned to Obsidian.
And you will make sure this happens justly, swiftly, and with the same mercy they gave to my wife.
One who put his hands on Hunter's shoulders.
Take me to her now.
I want to go with you.
Alter half shouted.
You won't be able to keep up with us.
Hunter growled under his breath.
I have seen her run. If she knew our destination, it would be us who could not keep up. You can come.
Hunter and the pack turned and ran off in the same direction they came. One who turned to Whisperer.
You stay with them and arrange the trial, the justice. We should go,
He said, staring at the ground as if he were lost in some distant memory of Loon. The pack was already down the beach. They were running at a pace set for one whom they respected more than any other creature. Alter and one who turned and ran off. Those that remained, Obsidian, Soin, Oriel, and Joe, stood watching, knowing that finding an agreement had just become impossible.